I'm going to let a couple more people in. Hi, everybody. It is good to see everyone here. Feel free to come onto the video. We won't be scared. We take everybody as you are. Pajamas, your drive home. It's all good with us. I will let more people in. I know usually people start trickling in around like 5:10 after, but we want to get started because we know that Mark has so much great stuff to share with us. Shannon and I were already picking his brain, and then Shannon's like, okay, let's just wait a second. Let's bring everybody else in. So I just want to thank you guys all for joining us tonight for our Thrive Together talk. This is, I was just thinking about it, Shannon. I think this is like our seventh talk already. We took a break for the summer to let everybody have a summer off. But we are back and we are just so grateful for the information that's been shared over the last 7 months and just this community that we're building. And all of these talks live on our YouTube channel, so people can go back and watch them. So it'll live there forever, Mark. You'll be there forever. But I am so privileged to be able to introduce our guest today, Mark McAfee, the founder and CEO of Raw Farm. He's also a dear friend of Susan Johnson's. He made a huge difference in kickers recovery. And I know Susan talks, if any of you guys, as most of you know, Susan, she credits a lot of kickers healing to Mark and his team and their products. So, and obviously all of you know our lovely Shannon Scheller, and she will be interviewing Mark tonight and be our mediator as usual while I work behind the scenes. Feel free to chat any questions that you guys might have. I'll make sure that Shannon gets it. And from there, I will let the two of you guys take it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm incredibly excited about this. I've definitely been following Mark as long as I have Susan Johnson. So as a fellow cancer mama, and even donating to Kick Cancer prior to my daughter being diagnosed, just following the story, learning all the things back then, but there's so many things that I think we just need to share with the rest of this community. And hold tight for everyone who's on here, because at the end too, we also like to stay on and just connect even after we say goodbye to Mark, if you have any questions about our kids or our athletes program and so forth. But so tonight though, we are aiming to explore the intersection of nutrition specifically through raw milk, kefir, and its potential benefits for individuals facing harsh realities of cancer treatments specifically, all while trying to keep in mind the importance of preserving the immune system, right? So, Mark, again, just thank you for being here tonight. And I want to kick this off with just saying, given your extensive knowledge in raw milk's nutritional benefits, could you share its components that might support the immune system for someone undergoing cancer treatment?
Well, thank you for having me, Shannon. Great question to lead off with. You know, you could get a very biased opinion from Mark McAfee, or I'm going to give you something that comes from hard science. Let's go that way. Let's go deep into hard science real quick. In 2021, a brilliant group of PhD researchers at Cornell University, funded by the National Dairy Council. These are the big dairies, big processors that process milk. Not Mark McAfee, the raw milk guy. This is Cornell University, funded by the National Dairy Council, the got milk people, right? To investigate the bioactives found in unprocessed milk. And you can all Google this yourselves. Dr. Tien Lin and all the people at PubMed, the unprocessed bioactives found in unprocessed milk. It's all available on PubMed, the National Institutes of Health. And they said this, and I have a summary I could give to you, but it basically said this: post-COVID, people are fascinated and very interested in getting the bioactives found in unprocessed milk into their diets because it's extremely, and here's the list. Are you ready? These are the bioactives the bioactive values, the properties of these bioactives. Very anti-hypertensive, anti-tumor, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, antiviral, think flu, think viruses, colds, anti-carcinogenic, immunoregulatory, probiotic, prebiotic, and postbiotic. Remineralization, modulation of the digestive process, and metabolism. Those are the bioactive compounds found in raw milk from cows that are all destroyed in pasteurization. That's not Mark McAfee talking. That's the National Institutes of Health. That's the National Dairy Council, Cornell University, funded by the National Dairy Council, saying that. And what they want to do is take these bioactives out of raw milk and make them into a new patented food or pill or something they're going to sell you to make money. Not to help the farmers, but to line their pockets. But what this was this was the great reveal. The great reveal that the FDA has been lying to us for 50 years. So there is a massive difference between pasteurized milk and raw milk. And the list I gave you is just the beginning of that list difference. Now, let me give you the structures that carry these bioactives. In other words, where are they found in raw milk? Here they are. Milk bioactives are found in the proteins of raw milk. The lipids, those are the fats. 60% of the bioactives I've just listed are carried on and in the butterfat globule. What's that say about skim milk? Not much, right? What's that say about homogenization, which destroys the butterfat globule? The enzymes are part of it. The alkaline phosphatase enzyme, which is the third most prevalent enzyme found in raw milk, very, very anti-inflammatory. Lots of studies online about that at PubMed. Functional and bioactive peptides, those are the small amino acids. Those are the proteins. The peptides are actually very functional and serve different purposes. They are bioactive. The raw whey proteins, which we know helps with allergies and asthma. They stabilize the mast cells that keep histamines from being released. The A or alpha lactobumin, which is a protein. The immunoglobulins or antibodies. Lactoferrin, which is actually found also in your tear ducts. They keep us protected. It protects us from foreign invaders. Growth factors. Yes, milk has some proteins that are actually active as hormones. Glycomacropeptides. The milk fat globule membrane itself, the actual globule itself, is a tri-layer triglyceride that's very, very, they call it a dietary fiber. It's a dietary fiber. It has got so much butyrate that the butyric acid in the lower gut really does well. And that's what creates, as part of the mucous membrane with the Akkermansia bacteria, which is missing in American diet or missing in Americans. And as a result, we have a very susceptible and permeable lower gut because this mucosal lining is thin or missing. So when you have a leaky gut, all the proteins go into your bloodstream. It causes all kinds of allergy problems, infections, all kinds of problems. So the Akkermansia and this mucosal lining come from this milk globule membrane itself, which acts to feed the Akkermansia bacteria, which make this wonderful mucosal lining, which protects us. Milk oligosaccharides. These were the key top sources of bioactives found in raw milk. This is not coming from me. This is coming from the scientists. They're talking through this wonderful study that showed all the things they wanted to take out of raw milk to put in a new patented product. What's fascinating about this is that when they try to take them out, they're fragile and they're destroyed in that process. And it's very expensive to take them out. And if they can take them out, they don't work as well when they're out by themselves in singular form because they rely upon the blueprint and the matrix of life as a whole. And so you can see the frustration of the processors thinking, we know these bioactives are fantastic and they give all these fantastic values, but they can't do it because they have major problems with the food safety side of combining milk from 50 different dairies and combining it in one big processing tank, and it always has a pathogen for sure. And they can't kill the pathogen because if they do, they kill the good stuff. That's why what we've done here at Raw Farm and the Raw Milk Institute, because we trained thousands of farmers internationally on how to produce this low-risk milk, is to preserve the whole, the blueprints of life. And we'll talk about the blueprints of life here a little bit because it's really the birthing process and breastfeeding, which is driving that in terms of knowledge and understanding. So that's what this is all about. I hope it kind of begins to answer your question, Shannon. But that's a powerful thing to come from the big industrial guys that like to cook the hell out of our milk. Literally.
Yeah. And I love that you actually started with a study, because upon diagnosis, we are essentially fear-mongered against anything raw, probiotics. And so I almost, want to be like, okay, well, print this study out and take that into your next appointment and be like, look, look at this. Now let's have a discussion. So I think even talking about probiotics, though, with your experience, the probiotics found in raw milk, how do those contribute to the gut health, especially when the gut flora might be compromised during chemotherapy and radiation? So how do the probiotics?
I spend literally a lot of my time studying this and hanging out with the International Milk Genomics Consortium at UC Davis. And Dr. Bruce German established the International Milk Genomics, the IMGC, 21 years ago to study lactation, breastfeeding, as well as all kinds of mammalian milks and understand it down to the minutia, down to the DNA level, down to they're chasing infinity, let's put it that way. They're looking at infinity when they're looking at the blueprints of life in milk. And what's interesting is when your child is diagnosed or you are diagnosed with a cancer, the doctor is absolutely giving his best shot, everything he can to kill that cancer. But the modern therapies we have for cancer and killing the cancer also have side effects on the rest of our system. And because our gut microbiome is 80% of our immune system, and because antibiotics and chemotherapy and radiation, all those things are decimating to the living things in our body. They're decimating the structures and the things that live, because they're going after trying to kill cancer cells. And God bless them for doing it. That's great. But the side effects can also be very detrimental to you. And oftentimes doctors say, well, it wasn't the cancer that got you, it was the treatment of the cancer and the susceptibility you had to a pathogen during that process. That's why when they give you immunotherapy, when they give you a compromising chemotherapy or compromising radiation or whatever they're giving you, it compromises your immune system because it's killing off a lot of these living things that are your immune system. It is your immune system. So we have to be very cautious that what you're not getting a threat during that process of trying to kill off the cancer. And raw milk, if produced improperly, for instance, a great example, if you went out to a conventional dairy, just the one down the road, that specializes in raw milk for pasteurization, and you have a compromised immune system, you have a very high odds of coming down with salmonella, E. coli 157H7, shigatoxin reactions, Campylobacter, listeria, very, very high level. But if you go to a dairy that specializes in raw milk for human consumption using completely different standards, and I could use the word standards of 50 times tonight, it wouldn't be enough. Because you're talking about a farmer that's concerned about the welfare of the consumer, grass to glass, the entire comprehensive production process has been scrutinized. And you have a plan to make sure that's a healthy cow, not a cow with mastitis or a cow with Campylobacter E. coli mastitis, not a cow that's having weakness of some kind. And you're making sure you cleanly milk that cow to make sure that cow is doing a great job in terms of the milk barn. So you're doing it completely, and you're testing that milk. You different measurements of the risk profile for that cow. So you have this conflict where, okay, season says go get raw milk. Well, where do you get it? You're not talking about the same raw milk when you're talking about this milk. We're talking about a specific kind of raw milk intentionally put together for human consumption. So we could talk about that at length, but very intentionally, when you're getting cancer therapy, that therapy can very well immunocompromise you, which makes you susceptible to pathogens. But if you have a pathogen-free, low-risk raw milk, drinking the raw milk and having all these wonderful bioactives effective in the milk, like Kicker had with kefir, which is a super raw milk because it's raw milk that's been fermented in terms of a low pH, extremely biodiverse, extremely probiotic food, then your immune system will not become compromised when the chemotherapy or the killing process of trying to go after the cancer is being affected. So what Kicker's story is that, yeah, they went after the cancer and they got it, but they didn't get him because his body stayed strong and he was vital and energetic and happy and, doing great. And his immunocompromised numbers did not fall off the charts like most kids. And so as a result, it was a very, very different kind of an outcome for him versus other children that really become compromised during that process of chemotherapy. So that said, you have to know your source of raw milk. And that's why the Raw Milk Institute was put in place 13 years ago in 2011, was to train farmers, because everybody should have access to raw milk. And those farmers should have three things: extremely high standards, knowledge and understanding and training of those standards. They should be well trained, and they should be doing testing to make sure they comply with those standards. And now we have 50 dairies across the United States that actually follow the Raw Milk Institute and are listed. They submit their bacteria counts every week or every month to show they're in compliance. And they have a completely different ethical, moral standards process than the dairy down the street that serves a processor, where it doesn't matter where E. coli or those kinds of pathogens are present. Under our standards, we have a zero tolerance for any pathogens. Under the pasteurized milk ordinance, they never count them because they're always there. So you can see that standards really apply here in terms of the kinds of recommendations we're talking about, to make sure that these children are given a product that doesn't threaten them, but supports them entirely. So that's kind of my initial response to that question.
And Mark, this is a great question that was brought up too, as you're talking about gaining access to it. So obviously, I, in California, had a lot of access to Raw Farms Dairy. I was able to purchase your products. Now in Tennessee, I can't get it. And so can you give us an idea of where they can get it, and maybe hope for the future for the rest of us who are longing for it?
Kind of a cute little thing on Instagram the other day, we heard this person say, the only thing California's got over Texas is raw milk. But that's so true, because what it does is it tells us that we have 50 different states, in 50 states of chaos in terms of raw milk standards. So some states have no standards at all and just a cow share and do what you want to do. Other states have legal raw milk in stores. Other states, it's illegal, but you get it at a rendezvous at midnight in an ice chest. So it's literally this chaos. And I think the processors like it that way because it keeps us disorganized, and we don't have a simple basic principle we all agree to, a standard. Well, we've been trying to level the playing field at Raw Milk Institute by training farmers here and internationally. We've trained 175 farmers in Great Britain 4 years ago. And we train farmers all over Canada where it's illegal, because we don't care about the legality. We care about food safety. We care about the fact that that child is going to be supported, encouraged, and thrive and be nourished, versus compromised by a questionable raw milk. We don't know what it is because it hasn't been tested. There's no knowledge of it. So at this point, I will say this. I am not a supporter of administrations per se. I'm a supporter of raw milk at the highest standard of quality for the next 50 years, not the next 4 years or 10 years. So I am apolitical in that regard. I will say this. Robert Kennedy and Nicole Shanahan, who was his vice presidential pick, that's a hard one to say, was at our farm 2 months ago for 5 hours. It interviewed me in depth. And she said to me, we would like, in other words, RFK at the time, who was running for president, we would like everybody in America to have access to this kind of biodiverse, wonderful, tested raw milk. Because the gut microbiome is in a disaster, a mess right now, and de facto our immune systems are completely compromised. And you look at COVID, you can see a great example of that. So we know that RFK right now, and they've reached out to me, they've asked me for, what standards would you like if you had raw milk? And I gave them 10 things we would want to do. And so I'm actually been invited into the tent and sitting at the table as the expert under this transition team with Nicole and Bobby to actually guide what's going to happen in the next 4 years. And I am very, very conscious of the political hot potato this is, because I serve all people. I serve those that voted for Jill Stein. I serve those that are Harris, and those that Trump. I serve all, love all, feed all, period. And so the bottom line is our humanity comes forward in saying we want a good policy for raw milk for everybody in America, and train the farmers and make sure we have systems and structures to allow this to happen. So I'm taking this very constructively and very seriously. and am at the table now to help this. So that's kind of the longer term view of the possibilities, what's going on. We have to be cautious. I mean, Bobby Kennedy's dad was shot. He used to hang out with, my dad and, Cesar Chavez. So this is a hot potato right now. And we have to be very conscious of this and very strategic and very methodic and very constructive. And I'm sticking with the hardcore basics of the science and the ethics of raw milk at a very high standard. So that's a really, really hopeful thing happening right now, where there's some major changes that are about to happen if they get the power to do so. And I'm hoping they do.
That's amazing. And I can stand behind what you said 100%. I think it just comes down to our health and what's right to, especially even the health of our kids in the future. So I don't know if, I mean, obviously treatment side effects are not necessarily your expertise, but I was wondering if there's specific components maybe that you believe in that would help to mitigate side effects from cancer treatments, like nausea and decreased appetite. Is there anything that you believe would assist with that?
Great question. Susan shared with me that the ability to keep the appetite up, to keep feeding, to keep eating, to keep nourishing, to keep bioavailability intact is critical. And I'm not an expert in this area, but I'll tell you this. This is what I've heard. This is what the rumor from all the moms that Susan sent my way is that the child, the bioactivity, the gut maintains its strength. Now remember, you can eat a food, but is it digested and assimilated, and does it nourish you? And that's where raw milk really comes in, and raw kefir for sure. Because remember, the bacteria counts in kefir are astronomically high. They're tens of million per milliliter. And you have a diversity of hundreds of different kinds of bacteria, including the Akkermansia we're talking about, which is the mucin creator that actually gets that nice mucus lining that's so critical to the lower gut. It has the butyrates and butyric acids that are created in the gut, and all these wonderful bacteria. Now, that right there is really a key to the health of the child going through cancer, and eliminating and decreasing the side effects, as well as keeping the other foods they're eating bioavailable. So what creates enzymes to digest your food? Bacteria create enzymes for us. Enzymes don't just hang out by themselves. They are created by bacterial action. So if you don't have your gut microbia and you don't have your food to feed that bacteria, there's two big components to your immune system, aside from the structures, which is the mucosal lining and intact intestines. That's the biodiversity of bacteria and the food that feeds it. If you want good bacteria to hang out and stay in your gut, you have to feed them. But if you feed sugar to the bacteria, yeast dominates. That doesn't work. If you feed antibiotics to the bacteria, that kills them. That doesn't work. If you feed a bunch of preservatives, which are intended to extend shelf life, but have nothing to do with gut life, that destroys them. So what you need to eat is whole food nutrition. That when you eat that kind of nutrition, then good bacteria hang out and they want to colonize and protect you. Remember, raw milk does three things: nourishes completely, protects you, and defends you. And it also directs you too. It's a fourth thing. So you want to be nourished, defended, and you also want to be directed. The direction comes from the microRNA. There's actually DNA, well, not RNA, but it's RNA, not DNA, found in the bacteria and in the actual extracellular vesicles around the wonderful globules of fat. And so think about a baby being born, and I really got to get into this, Shannon. This is so important because it talks about the blueprints of life itself. If we go back to the blueprints of life itself, we learned so much. And that's where I think the International Milk Genomics is really, really key to help me understand easily. Now, most of these people on here are mothers. There's fathers too. But the bottom line is mothers give birth to babies. When they give birth to babies, normal deliveries are vaginal, birth canal deliveries. And the baby comes out of the birth canal covered in fluid. And the pH of that fluid is low and covered in bifidobacteria from the mother's vaginal tract. That Baby is then put onto a breast to suckle colostrum for the first few hours. And then a day or so later, milk comes in and let down, and the baby is nourished. Before the baby actually leaves the amniotic fluid sac in the placenta area in the womb, it does not have an internal immune system. It does not have a functioning gut microbiome. There are no bacteria in the gut, or if there is, they're uncountable. They're just so few, there's nothing there. So because the gut is 80% of the immune system in a mature adult, how does it get it? It gets it from exposure to the mother's birth canal and consuming unclean, I should say very diverse wild bacteria from the mother's breast and the colostrum, which is the immunoglobulins and blood serum components from mom's circulation. Because remember, mom and baby don't share the same blood system. The umbilical cord separates at the placental barrier. So babies can have a different blood system than mama, different blood type. So the first exposure to diversity is the mother's breast. So colostrum comes in and bathes the gut, brings with it all kinds of bacteria, the Akkermansia, the bifidobacteria, coliform bacteria, lactobacillus, you name it, all this stuff, just a tremendous diversity of bacteria from the mother's birth canal, from the mother's gastrointestinal tract, because nothing's sterile, nothing's clean. And therefore, that is the seeds of life to begin an immune system that functions properly. So if a baby's born by C-section, well, they missed that opportunity. If a mother's doesn't breastfeed, missed that opportunity too. And the baby in the hospital gets given a bunch of sugar because they're hypoglycemic. Wow, you just started things off in a weird way. And no guilting to anybody, because sometimes that's important. That's what happened to save the baby's life or your own or whatever happened. No guilting here. But that's the reality, the blueprints of life that are missing in so many babies today. And then they're fed a formula. Mother can't breastfeed, won't breastfeed, whatever. And that formula has a bunch of weird sugars in it and no bioactives and funky, weird ingredients that don't come from a mother's breast. They're not part of the blueprints of life at all. And so you begin life that way, and then the baby gets sick. Well, let's hit him with antibiotics. Let's hit him again with antibiotics. Oh my God, that didn't work. Hit him again. And now let's give him a bunch of vaccinations, heavy metals. And you expect that baby to be healthy? They have a fully compromised immune system. There was a study done in 2002 that for every round of antibiotics, there's a 250% increase of asthma for life. So we're not starting things off very well from the get-go. Not even talking about mother's pre-delivery nutrition, which is critical, and father's nutrition before pregnancy occurs, which is important for the sperm to actually be healthy as well. So we have a real car wreck here that we ignored the beginnings of life. And we've ignored the Human Genome Project, which is just 2002 when they talked about it, how incredibly diverse the bacteria are in us and on us, and how the genome, our actual genetic code, is made up of 90 to 95% bacterial DNA and virus DNA, not 23andMe from mom and dad, the 23,000 genes from mom and dad at all. It's basically what we've acquired at birth, we acquired through what we eat, who we kiss, hug, the dirt we lay on, and the cats and dogs we play with, the environments we're in or not in, the antibiotics we take. So we have a tremendous amount of ability in this lifetime to adjust and adapt our immune systems to be strong. Yes, we inherited a hardware from mom and dad, 23,000 genes, but that was just the hardware. The software comes from what we've done at delivery and afterwards in the food we eat and what we do. And so all this is genetic coding that comes from the software that we code ourselves with the food we eat and the diversity of bacteria and the antibodies we create and all these bioactives we've got. We are living creatures that need this coding, and it comes from whole food nutrition. So I could talk about this for the next 16 days. I want Shannon to ask the next question, but it's a fascinating thing.
Well, I'm just going to comment on that since you went there. And then, I mean, from birth and so on, then you fast forward to where we are at a cancer diagnosis. And the majority of us moms have been told to give our kids antibiotics prophylactically throughout treatment. And yeah, it's devastating for their gut and their immune system overall. So
the interesting thing about the antibiotics prophylactically is that there's not really a target for that antibiotic to work against. It is a coverage that kills everything because they're concerned about everything, right? Sadly, that's actually bad science and bad medicine, because what you need to do is build your body, not tear it down. And if you have an infection, I can totally understand why you'd want to take an antibiotic, because that infection could turn to sepsis and kill you. I get that part. But when you give it without a target, that's really, in my opinion, a misapplication of science and actually inappropriate, because you're not understanding the gut microbiome, which protects you. You're not understanding how you're going to defend yourself from all the threats around you all the time. If you take antibiotics for 6 months or 8 months, all you're doing is compromising your immune system farther than it already is. Now, Season, bless her heart, she took the antibiotics and threw them away. She did the chemo. She did the targeted therapy that was specific to kicker. Bless her heart, it worked great. But instead of giving antibiotics, she fed that child raw milk smoothies with blueberries and raw eggs and avocados and olive oil and bone broths, lots of bone broths, because the collagens are necessary to keep that lower gut working and the mucosal lining to function, and tremendous of diversity of bacteria, and kept a strong immune system that could actually tolerate the onslaught of the killing process of chemotherapy, or the therapies that she went through with kicker. So this is where we talk thrive through cancer treatment, thriving through, which is deep nutrition, including bioactives and keeping things bioavailable so things function. You create the enzymes that can digest your food, keep your gut working, so you can actually function and fight while you're going through the process of killing and targeting what you need to do to get rid of the cancer in your body. And I'm hopeful in the next coming years that we even have more targeted cancer treatments that are actually more specific and more geoengineered to be targeted to exactly what's needed versus the entire body. Right now, we have a very general approach, which decimates the entire body, and as a result, compromises your ability to fight. And that's where you see bad outcomes, is where the children get susceptible and more weakened by their gut microbiome immune system function. And a bad bug comes along, including antibiotic-resistant bacteria. And antibiotic-resistant bacteria, like C. diff, oh my God, that's what kills your kid. So we need to be strong in this, and be strong through deep nutrition and vitamin D and all these things we need to do, but have it bioavailable and vitally in a place that works. The gut needs to work and not give up the fight. And so many of these doctors have been just taught kill, 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 kill. And they should be taught kill specifically, but support the whole, right?
Yes.
And they're not understanding that other part, unfortunately, and their medical training is missing that.
Yeah. Well, and even though, yes, I mean, Susan Johnson was able to do it successfully with her son, and she had a team of other people riding along her with her knowledge and so forth. So we're definitely not giving any medical advice here.
No.
So, but we are here to educate as much as we can with what you can do alongside of treatment. And I always call it kefir, but you said it way better. It sounded so good when you said it. But how do you say that again?
Kefir.
Kefir.
Kefir. It sounds
So-
so appropriate, right?
Yes.
Kefir.
I'm so glad you had him say that again, because I was like, wait, I need to hear this again, because I've been saying it wrong too.
Kefir.
Okay. So
Kefir.
as far as that goes, I know Kicker loved it, and he drank it straight out of the carton, just probably a liter of it a day. I don't know how much he drank, but it was a lot of it. Maybe not every child is going to like the texture or the flavor, the tartness. So what are ways that you feel is an easy way to integrate that? I think you said something about smoothies. Any ideas there? Or maybe moms can put it in the chat if they've been successful with integrating that with their children, because it's definitely a taste that some of the kids would have to get used to, for sure.
Well, it's sour. It's a low pH sour product. It's lacto fermented. But I will say this about raw milk, which is really unique. I don't know what it is. The Altadena people in Los Angeles, they have the raw milk dairy. the Stoovies used to say, it has life force in it. I don't know how to describe that or explain it. I really can't. But I tell you what, kids will grab a hold of a half a gallon of raw milk and not let it go and have a death grip on it. And it's like, it's mine. It's mine. I'm not sharing it. I love it. It's mine. It's my teddy bear. I love it. It's the flavor of it. There's something going on there. And I don't know how to describe it other than you see this all the time where kids say, I want more. And so there's something in raw milk that children innately desire, that they want it. Even in fermented form, I see this as well. So I can't explain it, but you have to explain it. You kind of go through the process yourself to discover how your child will react to it. And I don't know that yours will, but I don't do the majority that I know. The children just crave it. There's something that I think their bodies are saying, I need those bioactives.
Sierra just said, Sierra Brayley, chocolate perfect aminos would help with maybe some raw honey and smoothies for sure.
100%. Cacao is awesome. Raw honey is fantastic. Raw butter is fantastic. Remember that there's 4.5% butterfat plus or minus in raw milk. And remember, the butterfat is carrying 60% of these bioactives. When you make cream, it's 40% butterfat. So you've just 10x, you just 10 by a factor of 10 increase the number of bioactives. So cream will be powerful. Raw cream will be powerful in terms of the gut brain for a child in chemo. And then butter is 86% butterfat. Now you're missing some of the raw whey and some other things in there, but it's extremely high on the raw fat side in terms of brain health and gut health, and fantastic for the lower gut because of all that butyrate, that digestive fiber that's there. It's really, really good to build the gut. And the gut is where it's at. The gut is where it is at in terms of the immune system. So think of the immune system, think of the gut microbiome. Think of sugar not being particularly your friend. You need to have a proportionally lower kind of level of sugar, like raw honey, but you're not overdosing on it. You're appropriate levels of it. And then dietary fibers and vegetables and all these things we're talking about. Whole food nutrition is where it's at. The raw fats, the bone broths, the collagens. This is exactly what's in Season Johnson's dietary recommendation in terms of building the gut. It's good for Crohn's disease. It's good for immunocompromised. It's good for asthmatics. It's great for leaky gut syndrome. It's good for ulcerative colitis. It's good for, go on and on and on. It's good for your skin. It's good for acne. It's good for bone building. It's powerful food.
Mark, will you show everybody that amazing little tool that you showed Shannon and I before? I just feel like everybody needs to see this.
Well, I was going to lead that with a question. So,
oh, sorry. I'm excited for them to share.
But I definitely think that with all that's going on with raw milk and so forth, obviously you guys are at the top of your game in what you do to make sure that we're all safe. So, how does Raw Farms USA ensure that safety and nutritional quality of its products, particularly for consumers who are in a compromised health state?
The first thing I want to say is that when you look at the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, I mean, you should ban cantaloupe right now. Cantaloupe should no longer be consumed in America because it's got listeria deaths written all over it. Pasteurized milk's got incredible amounts of deaths associated with it because of listeria they got in after pasteurization. So the idea that you have any perfect food is a fallacy. But what you can do is you can have very, very, very low risk food. And that's our goal. I try to tell people the word safety is kind of relative, right? When you're flying on a 747, it's a very, very safe jet, but a few of them crashed. And it's safer to do that than ride in a car. And so, yeah, baby seats are safer than sitting in seatbelts. So it's a relative comment. But I'll tell you, the most dangerous thing you could do is walk around with a stripped, naked immune system and be susceptible to everything out there to get you. So what we're doing is we are lowering the risks to down negligible and building your ability to resist to a very high level, which brings, in my opinion, a very much higher confidence level of being protected from food safety risks. But in that transition, let me show you a few things that we're doing to make sure that our raw milk is very, very safe. There's only 2 dairies in North America that have something called SmackTech, one right there. I don't know if you can see that writing or not, but it's developed in the EU, in the European Union, and every one of our cows, wherever they are, in the pastures, wherever they are being milked, they have one of these things in their gut. It sits in there, and their first rumen inside. They swallow it. It sits down there. It doesn't go anywhere. It stays in there until they die. And this measures the pH and the temperature every 10 minutes in their gut, in their body. So one of the first leading indicators of any kind of a problem with a cow is that she will have a fever. When a cow comes down with most anything, mastitis, whatever, they have a fever. So we know within 10 minutes of a cow having a fever on our farm individually, which cow it is. We can go out and see her and say, okay, let's take your temperature again and make sure you're okay. But that data comes in and it's actually sorted by a computer that takes these tens of thousands of data points every day and says, oh, you need to be bred. Because cows run a very low temperature when they're in estrus, when they're in heat, literally in heat. If they have some other infectious process, they might have a higher temperature. But you can certainly find out when you go out to them and observe them, whether they're in heat or whether they have some other problem. And so we're able to identify every individual cow that has a problem on our dairy within 10 minutes and treat them and segregate them and take care of them so that they're not in the milk stream, to know that in fact we have all of our cows are healthy. So that's a very powerful thing we have. It's called SmackTech. And it's something we use on all of our cows. That's one of the things. We do many other things too. We have an on-farm pathogen lab, first of its kind in the world being used on a farm. They've never done this ever before. We have a Thermo Fisher SureTech pathogen lab on our farm at our dairy. And it's run by two microbiologists that are recent graduates from Fresno State University. They have a master's degree in microbiology that run the lab, and they're awesome at it. And we get our data in 19 hours before the milk leaves our possession to go to the consumers. We know whether it has E. coli O157H7 pathogen, salmonella, listeria, or campylobacter in that milk. And then we do testing of individual cow sets of 20 cows each to make sure we don't miss any cows every week. So those are big investments. That's one of the reasons why the milk is expensive. But remember, if we're feeding somebody that lived on a farm and had a really strong immune system, an occasional pathogen coming through, they wouldn't even know it because they probably have immunity to it. But we're not feeding those people. We're feeding kicker. We're feeding your kids that may have immunocompromise, that may have had a lot of antibiotics, that may have had a lot of vaccinations, that may be on chemotherapy, that don't have those protections that a normal, healthy, roll around in the dirt farm kid might have or might not have, who knows. So we have to be game on 100% if we want to have raw milk emerge as a safe, reliable food. And we do this intensive $1 million a year program to make sure we have that kind of reliability. And I'm not claiming perfect. I'm not going to have that much pride in this thing. I'm a humble guy. But we do is a best effort, and what we have is excellent results. So the pasteurized guys, let me tell you, a bunch of ice cream brands have gone out of business the last 3 or 4 years because of recalls on listeria, and people have died. A lot of it. It's all pasteurized. So this idea that we're going to have perfect food is not real. It's not reality. What we have is an imperfect food system, and we have non-sterile food, and that's okay. But what we need to do is build our immune systems to be able to eat the food we have. If we have strong immune systems, we can go out and eat whole food nutrition, have immunity and strength. And that's what we're missing today, because we have this idea that we're going to live in a sterile bubble. The sterile bubble is a bubble of trouble. The less immunity you have to your environment, the less you can participate in your environment. And so you have to be exposed to the diversity of bacteria, build up antibodies to them, and some of those bacteria may be pathogenic. And by the way, a couple of days or a week of diarrhea, and you have immunity for life from Campylobacter. Prior to 1972, Campylobacter wasn't even considered a human pathogen because we all had immunity to it. We were all chickens in the backyard, and we had a farm, and we were all playing in the dirt. Well, not anymore. So our pathogen list is extending and getting bigger and wider and deeper as our immune system gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And what we need to do is reverse that course, not by exposing people to more pathogens. We can do better than that. But what we can do is we can expose them to the diversity of bacteria, which are the cousins of those pathogens, that gives you protection from the pathogens because they're related, but they aren't going to make you sick. So we need to get back a little bit more to the dirt and the nutrition of the soils that we lived and been a part of for the millennia, forever and ever. But we've been separated by modern culture, modern processing, modern foods, modern sterility, modern Purell, lack of connection to our environments and antibiotics and everything else. And I'm not, again, as a paramedic, I'm not saying antibiotics are bad. I'm just saying there's a backside to them. If you're going to take an antibiotic to get rid of an ear infection, great. But you better be on probiotics and kefir for the next 2 months, because you're going to get another antibiotic. You're going to get another infection in your ears. And by the way, that one might be antibiotic resistant. So we are bacteriosapiens genomically, and we need the good food that feeds the biodiversity of bacteria in our bodies to be strong on Earth.
Well, Mark, I just wish that we could duplicate your farm and your heart and your practices, your technology all over the world. I just think it's unfair that you're in California and I can't have you over here on the East Coast. So I really do pray that these practices continue to grow, expand, and for lack of a better word, just become infectious. But
Yes.
But just to expand, because I really think that it's a disservice for us to have homogenized, sterilized milk that just has no health benefits for people.
It really doesn't. And we're losing 5.5 dairies a day in America. We're down to 23,000 dairies now, losing 5.5 dairy every day. California losing a dairy a week under the pasteurized milk standards. Now, we're not losing any cows. We're just losing dairies. That means the dairies we have that are surviving are 10,000, 15, 20,000 cow dairies that are mega CAFOs. So the environmental impact on that is not good. Methane and all the other things. They're never going to pasture that cow. So what this is a renaissance. It's actually a reawakening of the farm to consumer connection at the smaller level, where farmers can take incredible pride and focus on the details we're talking about here, that the Raw Milk Institute's trained farmers to do. Delaware just changed their laws to allow legal raw milk there. But guess what? We were able to talk to their ag secretary. They're going to have an on-farm lab on every one of those farms so they can have world-class raw milk and not have to drive down to Pennsylvania to get it for 4 hours. So these kinds of changes are happening. Iowa just changed their laws last year to do the same thing. So I think the good is absolutely starting to come to the surface. And I'm seeing it come to the surface in a beautiful, beautiful way, which kind of harkens back to my time as a paramedic and the 15,000 paramedic calls I had. And the 13 children a day that die from asthma, when raw milk actually makes asthma get better and go away. And that is, this is farmers over pharmacies time. We need pharmacies, but they should never be ahead of important nutrition. And that is what's going to prevent cases of cancer. That's going to make us strong. That's going to keep us healthy and have healthy children going forward. It's not going to be more drugs and medications. It's not going to be at all. That doesn't have anything to do with how healthy we will be. That takes away the signs and symptoms of disease as we get sicker and sicker. This is farmers over pharmacies time. And I'm hoping and praying we can get good change with RFK and Shanahan and the good people that want to do well and have America be healthier.
Yeah, we need to be sustainable because the way that the numbers have been going, I mean, as we are increasing millions of numbers of people in our country, but we are decreasing millions of farms, who is going to make our food?
Thank you.
Right? So you have to keep that in mind, like who's making our food. So but we just want to say thank you for what you do. Thank you for continuing to educate. Thank you so much for making our cancer families here a priority and coming to talk to us. We are so honored to have you. If anybody has any questions, please, you can feel free to unmute yourself. This is your time. This is your family. And Mark is just a grandpa here to talk to you and answer anything that you have to ask.
And I will say, my heart is with you 100%. This is very, very hard for you. And my heart is with you. My virtual hugs are with you too. So feel free to ask questions. The harder ones, the better ones. It's not an easy time for anyone, but I think season offers great hope and great evidence great evidence through Kicker and others that this works very, very well. Not for everyone, unfortunately, which is tragic. But I tell you what, let's hope for a better future, and we can start now.
Absolutely. All right. Well, if nobody has any questions, Mark, I know that you're an extremely busy guy, and so we're going to let you go and hopefully say until next time.
100%. Shannon, you had great questions. You were a great host, and thank you so much, Dana. Great job. Thank you.
We adore you, Mark. Thank you for everything.
Mark, everybody else, you're more than welcome to stay on and connect with other moms, ask any questions about maybe our athletes program or our kit. If you have any questions about the Kickstart kit, if you have not applied for a Kickstart kit, one of the biggest questions that I have received on social media and direct messages is this something that I can start during treatment? And yes, that's absolutely why this kit was built specifically for childhood cancer families, is that everything in there is safe for you to start during treatment. And I think that there's this idea of I can't detox my child while we're doing treatment because it's going to negatively affect that, or it's going to extend their treatment. And that's actually not true. So the idea of that is that when you're able to use these detoxification tools, and it's really detox baths and the castor oil packs, when you're able to use those, you're able to pull those toxins out and reduce the inflammation that's inside the body and actually allow the chemotherapy and radiation to be more effective than it would without detoxing. So I know that while they're in hospital, my daughter was 3 at the time, and tubbies were her favorite thing, but definitely not her favorite when hooked up to what she called tubies and having those hanging out from her. Like the bathtub just did not seem fun anymore. At home, we could keep her in there, no problem, 30 to 45 minutes, as long as I bargained with a tablet, put on a little cartoon or something. And here she is now at 10 years old. And it's still, she begs me on a weekly basis to still take her detox tubby, which as of right now, we look at it as, cancer prevention. So we still want to encourage that. And I love that she is making those decisions. I really do think that it's because she gets computer time. So it's pick a video, keep it on, make sure that your video button is covered, and I'll let you know when your time is up. But when you're in hospital, or if it's hard to keep your child in the detox tubby, know that 10 minutes, even 5 minutes, just sitting in there, if you can get that, consider that a win. Give yourself a mommy high five or a daddy high five for Joe, and say, hey, I won today. Making sure that some of the snacks that are inside the kit, we send those fermented beef sticks from Paleo Valley. Those are great snacks to bring in hospital. Any other ideas would be whether you have some olives or pickles or just hands-on things. We had a fridge inside ours, so we were able to stack it full of treats that she could grab. Her, maybe she wasn't as hungry as usual during treatment, but when she was hungry, she loved having her berries and her string cheese and walnuts. Like those were her favorite things to eat during that time, mainly because I didn't offer her any of the other things, right? We actually had, I feel like I'm talking to myself. I know you guys are here, but I can't see any of your faces. So I feel like, hey, there's Sierra. Hi. I felt like, just my jaw hit the floor when I had nurses encouraging me and saying, oh, your kid's going to want things that are spicier. And in my head, I immediately thought, oh, okay, so I'll be adding like pepper to her food, spice it up a little bit, right? And no, 3 different nurses encouraged flaming hot Cheetos. And then I continued to see kids with orange fingers on the floor. And it was really discouraging to know that these are the types of things that are being encouraged. And not that these nurses mean any harm, because they don't. Their heart's in the right place. They really want to help you and encourage you and give you easy ideas, because every calorie is a good calorie, but they just don't know any different. And so we hope to continue to get this message out. If there's other people that you know that would be interested in a Kickstart kit, making sure that you pass this information along, because it's a small box, a small start. But when I received it, I remember bawling. I think probably because for 6 months I had followed Susan Johnson, donating to Kit Cancer, because I was just in awe of her efforts and what she was doing and her research. Because in general, at the time when my daughter was just an epileptic, we didn't have a cancer diagnosis, but I thought, wow, this is great information for everyone. Everyone should know this stuff, right? And apply it in their household. And then, I put in my order for a Kickstart kit. And the kits, yes, it applies for your child, but it's really a kit for mom and dads. Like, let's just get real. More so moms. Sorry, Joe. But it really is a mom's gift. So coming up in this season, we're hoping to get more pictures or videos from mamas of just either using the products or unboxing. So if you haven't gotten it, we would love for you to send us some video. If you do have it, just even using the products. I don't care if it's cleaning your counter. I think someone had sent a video. I wasn't able to download it or ask permission, but someone had sent a video of their kid cleaning like their toy. Oh, get the germs gone with the branch basic spray that comes in the kit. And I'm like, this is so perfect. So just anything so that we can make sure that we continue to get our word out there. I think it's more effective when cancer moms can see other moms using the products and loving them and realizing, oh, do I need that in my home? Because we want to gift those out. We want to send them to families. But they have to apply. They have to feel like that's something that they could use and that it can help reduce the toxins in their home and so forth. So if anyone's interested, oh yeah, Pluck seasoning. That's not in our kit. I would love for Pluck to donate. That would be nice. I'd love to start putting some Pluck inside the Kickstart kits. But yeah, if you guys have any ideas of things to add, companies to contact, we're always interested in looking for other things to add to the kits. So, but we just want to say thank you guys. Athletes program, this isn't just for after treatment. I know not all kids are able to get back into the activities of their choice during treatment. It's just from weakness, being lethargic, being sick all the time, or in treatment. Sometimes activities just aren't available. We've definitely had, I think that's why we've had a lot of kids who have done horseback riding, just because that's even horse therapy during, their break times. They could go, they could schedule the things. So our athlete scholarship program is something that you can apply for either during or after treatment when they're able to, or with an activity that you feel like they can join. So I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions for me? I think we're gonna head out. You guys have a wonderful evening. We hope to have you back next month and every month thereafter for our Thrive Together talks. All right, have a good night, you guys. Bye.